Your next artwork that you're going to create is going to be based in this idea of architecture. So you'll be using architecture as your influence. Architecture is both the process and the product of planning, designing, and constructing buildings or any other structures. Architectural works in the material form of buildings are often perceived as cultural symbols and as works of art. So clearly you're not working three-dimensionally here. You'll be doing a drawing or painting that is influenced by architecture. Throughout history and throughout different parts of the world, we have a lot of different styles of architecture and different iconic buildings that we associate with different places in the world as well. Here in Elgin, we also have a lot of historic buildings and homes as well. So as you start to plan for your architecture artwork, consider using Elgin and its surrounding area as an and its beautiful architecture as an influence for your artwork. Here are built within this slideshow, there are a couple of resources here that are specific to the historical homes and buildings within Elgin. So please feel free to explore those. Frank Lloyd Wright is one of the probably best known architects, known for his prairie style. He was a kind of a Midwestern artist, but his work does show up all over the world. He lived in Wisconsin. So his artwork, it has been dubbed prairie style, so it really fits into this kind of prairie landscape that we it's very iconic in terms of it's very easily recognizable. We see his style and we recognize it very easily. The Fabian home in Geneva was actually a farmhouse that Frank Lloyd Wright remodeled early in his career, and that's someplace you can visit if you are curious. We have other iconic buildings near us, in Chicago, with this corn cob building influenced by the actual corn cob being one of the top grown products here in the Midwest, and other Chicago iconic buildings here. As you move forward with your architecture assignment, also consider the interior spaces for your architecture influence. Couple of artists that I just wanted to expose you to. Jessica Park. There's not a lot out there about Jessica Park. She's a current living artist with autism. Her work is very much based in shape, color, and pattern. There's not a lot of shading. They don't feel very three-dimensional, but they are definitely influenced by architecture. Beverly Buchanan is an artist that works both two-dimensionally and three-dimensionally, and she creates these little shacks. These are narrative in nature, so she's typically trying to tell some sort of story about home through her work. Maya Ranska is an artist that I don't know much about, but I find her work very stunning. She's using watercolors. Her use of the watercolor is just very beautiful, and you can see here she's using a lot of masking techniques. There's probably a lot of planning for that before she even starts in with the watercolor. I also like that there's no harsh linear work. There's no outlines to these. It's shapes and color that are really her focus within the architecture. And Cinta Vidal, another artist that I'm not very familiar with, but whose artwork is really interesting to look at. And she's creating these sorts of little conglomeration communities that sort of float like islands within her work. So something else to consider is that the architecture that you are influenced by, it could be just that. It could be only an influence where you then take it and transform it or do something else with it. So these artists are artists that you can all feel free to explore a little bit more on your own as you move forward. And tomorrow I will provide you with more details specific to your architecture assignment.